Hi there, I'm Samantha Burns, the Millennial Love Expert from LoveSuccessfully.com. I'm a licensed relationship counselor and dating coach, and I specialize in millennial love issues, which is exactly the topic we're going to be covering today. In this video, I'm going to review how millennials are different from other generations in terms of relationships and marriages. We'll review the most common roadblocks and setbacks to finding love as a millennial. I'm going to give you advice on how to date more strategically. We'll look at how the digital landscape and technology has changed how we approach love from dating to hookups. We're going to cover whether or not I think romance is actually dead for millennials, and I'll discuss trends I've seen in counseling and coaching hundreds of millennials from across the country. So without further ado, let's dive in. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys some new data that just came out of the Singles in America survey, which is Match.com's annual survey that polls 5,500 singles across the country. So I'm going to just talk through some trends that we're seeing in millennial dating, how millennials are different than other generations when it comes to love, and some of this information, whether or not you're a millennial, is still pertinent to you if you are doing things like online dating. Millennials are 30% more likely than any other generation to want a relationship this year, which is great news. And why is this? Most likely because millennials range from ages 18 to 35, and they're really in that normal developmental period from a biological standpoint to find a romantic partner, and that being your number one goal. In fact, millennials are 177% more likely to feel an overwhelming pressure to get married than any other generation, because we're told this is the time in your life where you should be settling down, getting married, and having babies. But we're waiting longer than any generation in history to really settle down. And I think this is for numerous reasons, including we're more focused on our career goals, we're more focused on paying off financial debt and giant student loans, and also we really are a generation of soulmates. And what I mean by that is we're more focused on the quality of our relationships than using marriage as an excuse to move out of mom and dad's house, to buy our own homes, or to have a baby. So instead, we're really seeing a trend of cohabitation where millennials are living together for longer and testing out long-term relationships before deciding whether or not they want to get married. And I think this is great because obviously some of those relationships are not going to work out, in which case they don't have to deal with the legality of marriage and divorce. But if they find a relationship that really works and it's tested and they've lived together and they're saying, yes, we can work through problems in the good times and the bads, then if they're getting married, you can hope that we are going to see like longer lasting marriages, happier marriages with better quality. So I'm really optimistic for millennials in marriage, and I think that we're approaching it in a unique way that we didn't necessarily see in the past. When we talk about roadblocks to finding love for millennials, like where are we having a difficult time? Millennials are 57% more likely to have created a profile on a dating app than any other generation. So why is this? Smartphones and dating apps have only been around for the last decade, and millennials are early adopters, so we've incorporated these apps into our daily life in a normal way to meet and interact with new people, whereas older generations, this is a completely new approach to love, especially for people who've been married for a long time and divorced and are now, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and just figuring out what this whole online dating game is about. But interestingly, millennials are 22% more likely to feel that technology has made finding love more difficult. So this is very interesting for me because as much as technology is helpful in bringing people together, it's also being overused and can really prevent long-term relationships from getting started. I think that the nature of swiping apps like a Tinder or a Bumble is actually really addicting. And on my website, I've written an article comparing Tinder to Candy Crush because it can be treated like a game or an ego boost. And many of those swiping apps activate the reward center in your brain, releasing dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that's like a hit of pleasure. So you become trained over time to swipe over and over again, seeking that high every time that you match with someone. And the more matchers, the bigger the boost of feel-good chemicals, similar to the effect of drugs or gambling or even sex. And so you're left craving more, which may explain why millennials can't seem to put their phone down now. I mean, you're watching me on Facebook. Facebook works the exact same way. You get a like, you get a message, you get a comment, and you're glued to it, and you're constantly checking your feed because you're getting that reward. And dating apps are no different. So unfortunately, I see people not committing to relationships because they continue to get onto these apps. Sorry, I've been talking a lot in the last hour. So millennials, we now know from this survey that I mentioned earlier, if you're just joining me, and go back and watch the beginning of this because I'm sharing some awesome new data, millennials are 125% more likely to admit that they're addicted to the process of making a love connection than any other generation. So we're acknowledging that we're addicted to these apps. And another roadblock to love for millennials is something I call the grass is greener mentality, which you may have heard me talk about before, which is basically FOMO. It is the fear of missing out on something or someone better. So dating apps have made it so easy to come into contact with potentially thousands of people in relationships that rather than committing to a casual relationship that has the potential to really grow, people get back online. And this prevents us from developing emotional intimacy and really taking the relationship to the next level. So I also feel that we're inundated with so many desirable choices and with the ease of the relationship with the swipe of a finger that this leads to really poor, damaging dating etiquette where, there's the phenomenon of ghosting, which is when you disappear without a reason or explanation to the person that you've been talking with. And this can leave singles really disheartened and jaded and bringing a cynical attitude back into the dating market. So I think in order to kind of love successfully and date successfully right now, we need to approach dating in a different way. From research, we now know that millennials want to be in relationships, and in fact, 57% report feeling lonely. We're feeling disconnected despite so many different ways to connect, whether it's social media or these dating apps, and that's really telling to me that we're feeling so lonely. So it might be time to get back to the basics and interact with people without technology. So putting your phone away, making eye contact, smiling, saying hello. It is literally that simple. You really need to give someone the green light signal that you're approachable and that you won't reject them if they come over to say hi. And I think when we're walking around with our heads down in our phones or on our laptops at the coffee shop instead of smiling and chatting with people, we're really missing out on that, especially in urban areas. I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and when you went out walking down the street, if you walked by someone, you literally said hello and you chatted with them about their day. And here we all walk without making any eye contact in the Boston area. It's kind of a cold city. It's difficult to really connect with people. So we need to change those nonverbal behaviors. I also think to date successfully, this really requires a sense of self-awareness and reflection. So ultimately, if you don't know what you want and how you want to feel about it, you'll never know if and when you have it, no matter how many people you date. So you can gain clarity in your love life when you dig deeper and you explore things like your core values, your life goal, kind of decide the lifestyle you want to live, and ultimately reflect on your love lessons from past relationships so that you have a better sense of who you are and then who would make a good match. So with every date and relationship experience, you should become a smarter, more intentional dater every time. If you're not really putting in that effort, you're not doing yourself justice, you're not dating with intent, and you're not really going to find the person that might be a soulmate or the one, which we now know our generation is really looking for. So besides for the dating apps and the grass is greener mentality, another comment I have about how the digital landscape is really changing how we approach love is I think hiding behind a screen, whether it's your computer or your phone, has really dehumanized us a bit in our romantic interactions. You used to have to let someone down in person or on the phone, and now you can text them, you can send them a message on Instagram, you send emojis, or worse, we ghost on someone. So we're really lacking the skills, the communication skills, right, to manage effectively a relationship. I see a comment, yes, no hiding, no more hiding. So I think we need to reconnect with the emotional piece of dating, which ultimately requires spending more time together in person. Which brings me to my next point. So people ask me, is romance dead, especially in the digital age? And I'd like to think no, but I think it depends how you define romance. If you're talking about sending flowers to someone or planning great dates, I think millennials are honestly slacking. Instead of dates, they're doing Netflix and chill. And instead of sending flowers, they're sending silly memes or cat videos. And don't get me wrong, if you know me, you know I love a good cat video, but it's preventing real connection. So despite technology making it easier to stay in touch and to communicate more frequently, I think we need to do a better job of bringing back old school romance, which requires quality time in person. Nothing can stand in for that. Like, we have to have quality time in person. And many millennials are so career focused and working 24/7, especially with the expectation that with a smartphone you can be at everyone's beck and call, like your boss. This means it's harder to transition out of your workday and into your personal life. So we need to be better at setting boundaries and really prioritizing our partners or our dating lives, and spending that time in person together. And then lastly, people ask me what trends I've seen in dating, and I've covered a lot of them in this talk so far. But one thing I want to talk about is also the trend with millennials and breakups, because I think it's getting more and more challenging to get over a breakup because we come into so much contact with our exes because of social media and even seeing them back on the dating apps like Tinder. So from research, we basically know that you're addicted to your partner. So when you go through a breakup, you withdraw from your ex, similar to the way that you would withdraw from drugs or alcohol. So every time you see your ex pop up on your friend's Snapchat, like by accident, you're actually triggered emotionally, and it sets you back in your healing process. I cover more millennial dating and breakup trends in my upcoming book, Breaking Up and Bouncing Back. In the meantime, hit subscribe on my channel in order to receive all my latest videos, or visit me at lovesuccessfully.com, where I have tons of free articles all about dating, breakups, and increasing relationship satisfaction. You can also access some free goodies, including an ebook called Love Successfully 10 Secrets You Need to Know Right Now, all about the secret ingredients it takes to cook up a happy love life. You can access a free quiz called the Good Guy versus Bad Boy quiz, which tells you whether or not the guy you're dating is emotionally unavailable. And you can also receive 14 days of breakup support, which is called Break Up, Bounce Back, which is 14 days to getting over your ex. Can't wait to see you guys again soon.